Hey guys, Shane here from Fugatech 3D Printing. So I did some testing, and today we're going to look at fan setups for the E3D Titan with the E3D V6 Volcano nozzle. So hey guys, welcome back. So like I said, we're going to take a look at fan setups. Now these are all going to be for the Folgertech FT5. I say that in particular, this would work for most of them, I guess. You know, if you're using this on an i3 or whatever, but I did this testing purely on an FT5. So if you use this on any other printer, you know, take this video with a grain of salt and do your own testing. But again, this is my experience. These were no enclosure on the FT5. This is using the Titan, the E3D Titan, with their all-metal heat break, and using their Volcano nozzle, which is what I was originally using for quite a while. I've now switched to the standard V6 because I wanted the silicone sock. But anyways, I picked out the top 5 that I could find on Thingiverse, plus the fan that they have in the Google Drive for the Folgertech FT5. So let's take a look at each one and see how they look. Alright, so now that we're set up, this is the stock fan shroud from the Folgertech FT5 Google Drive. And this just bolts onto the back of the carriage, and this, you know, the outlet is pointing downward at an angle to meet where the Volcano would be. So it would be about that big of a difference between this and where the nozzle actually sits at. It's about a good 1.5 inch distance. It puts out quite a bit of air, so you can use the standard 40mm fan on there, but I didn't like that, so I went ahead and printed this little shenanigan, and this lets you put on one of those 50mm turbine style fans right onto the back here. So that just clips on like so, pushes the air down, and this just helps the fan twofold, keeps it clear of anything, and it helps pull in air. So this is what I did for this one, and here are the prints. So the 3 prints that I did for all of these setups was a lattice cube off Thingiverse, this Control V test, and a benchy. So first off, look at the lattice. You can see, hopefully you can tell that you can see that there's stringing in here, which was not ideal, but and it's all downward stringing mostly. Some of it is side to side, but most of it is downward because that's where the airflow came from. There was drooping and sagging on most of it. It did pretty well at the top. All the tops are nice and smooth, but everything down here on the bottom sagged quite a bit. I wasn't happy with that, and I did 2 top layers to see how they would do, and here they did okay, but you can see the infill through there a little bit. So next up is the benchy, and the benchy, again, 2 top layers. There were holes in the top layer, so it didn't quite cool it as fast as it was extruding. Sidewalls are smooth. You can see nice bottom layer. You can clearly see the CT3D XYZ at the bottom. You can barely see the back, but that's because it's a 0.2. You know, otherwise it came out okay. No issues on bridging across the windows or anything like that. So it came out okay. And the Control V3 test. This has all kinds of things. It has pillars, pyramid cylinders, the cutouts here, different size, like teeth right there you can see. Just different shapes along the sides. Here we have some bridging, short, medium, and long. A couple towers here and there. We have percentage, not infills either, because it's all solid because it's so thin. Just 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, 4 layer of how thin that all looks. There's a good look at it there. And then this, you know, dome, you know, does like overhangs and whatnot. So this came out really, really nice. I can't really say much about it because it worked. I know, and this is the very first one that I did, and the fact that it worked right off the bat, I was surprised. Bridging could have been a little bit better, I can say that. And you can see the wisps here from the filament because how hard the fan was actually blowing down. Needed to turn it down a wee bit. But it came out well. So, I mean, if you have the Volcano nozzle and this is what you have, this is actually a decent fan setup. Okay, so this is the second fan setup that I did. I figured, you know, well, 1 fan was decent. How about 2 fans? So with this setup, it does 1, 2 40mm fans blowing downwards, straight down. They're not really on an angle, they're just straight down. and it uses the 30mm fan from the E3D. You just take it off, pop it right on here, and then this just friction clips right on to the hot end, like so. And it would sit like that, pointing down, obviously. This worked out pretty well. This model, though, was bad. It's hard to tell, but I actually had to drill out different parts in here because for some reason there were solid layers in there, and I didn't check before I printed it in Simplify 3D. So I just drilled it out and filed it, and it was fine. I talked to the designer. He has since fixed it, so it is now working much better. But let's look at the prints. Okay, so here they are. This lattice cube came out very, very well. Minimal stringing, which was good to see. So the fan wasn't blowing too hard with 2 of them. And top layers on here better than how it was with the other fan setup. A bit of drooping on the bottom of all of the arms pretty much. The tops came out fairly smooth, and you know, it's exceeded. So that's kind of the main thing with this cube, is can it do it? And it did. Next here is the benchy. So a benchy, again, a little bit of issues here on the top layer, but the deck came out well. No issues whatsoever with the overhangs of the windows. All the sides were really, really nice. You'll see here there is a little bit of a difference. I did have a layer shift slightly, and that was the printer's fault, not the filament or the fan. So, and also for some reason I was a little bit far away. So the CT3D XYZ came out great on the bottom, but the first layer has a little bit of gaps in it. Again, that was my printer, not this. But this was a very decent benchy. 2 more top layers would have solved the problem, but again, I was testing to see how well it would do with minimal top layers, and it did really well. Again, here's the Control V3 test, and the bridges, as you can see here, came out fantastic, much better than they did with the stock one. You know, filled in the hole real nice. This dome completely smooth, no droops, no overhangs in it anywhere there. Minimal stringing here between all the different towers, straight up in the angles. The pyramid came out nice, cylinder came out nice, and all the cutouts came out perfectly. Everything came out exactly the way it should. So I will say, right off the bat, this is the best fan setup that I have found for the E3D Titan V6 using the Volcano nozzle. There are other ones for the standard nozzle, but this is by far the best for the Volcano nozzle. On to the next one, just so you can see other options. Next one is quite a popular one that I see a lot of people use, not just on the Folgertech FD5, but on everything. And it is a basically single perimeter, maybe 2 perimeters are in there, and it's a friction fit over the E3D. So then it would be pointing, you know, going down like this, just clips right onto it. And it's one 30mm fan for everything. And you splitting your cooling load in half. So as much as you could cool just the, you know, just the throat, the heat break, or just cool the print, you're having it. And that's not really great. It's not really good to do. Excuse the long bolts. I had to use what I had when I was building these because I had so many of them going at once. And also the heat block actually hits this, so it actually melted a little bit of it. It's not on there very tight, so it's rather loose when it sits on there. And I mean, we'll look at the results. So here's the lattice cube. You can see there's a fair bit of stringing, and there's way more drooping than there was with the last 2 prints. Also tons of, I don't know, they weren't layer shifts, but they're just layer issues, we'll call them. But you see how stagmented everything is. The top layers were somewhat smooth, but not really. It did handle the 2 top layers for the base very well. But that was really about it. And it did complete the print. So aside from that, that's really about it for there. Benchy, this actually has one of the best sidewalls of any of the benchies that I have done. The top layers, holes in the top, holes in the deck. No drooping really, some on the archway, but the front window and the round windows came out okay. Wee bit of drooping on the round window. And everything, I mean, it adhered well, but again, good, you know, sidewalls, but aside from that, that was about it. And for the V3, this actually came out very, very well with this, and again, I was kind of surprised. Top layer was kind of iffy though. I apologize, it's kind of hard to see, but it was pretty iffy. Other than that, all the different, whoops, that just popped right off. That's happened on a few of these now. So the bridges are on there so thinly, they just kind of pop right off because it's like one little dip of filament and that's it. But you know, with the circle, the beams, towers, circles, the cutouts here, they all came out great. Minimal stringing, which was good, but definitely not the best idea, not the best setup you could have. Don't split your cooling from your throat and your part to one fan. Use two different fans. Just flat out use two different fans. So let's look at the next one. Next one I tried was this getup. So basically, this clamps on, and this one actually set up for a zip tie. They have another version, I believe, that does a screw, and these go in each of the fans, clip onto the sides like so, and they encompass the extruder or the nozzle pretty closely. So you can see how close those are. Sorry. You can see how close those end up seeing. They can use 2 bolts on each one to hold them in, but these are extremely weak and they are sized way too small. Using an M3 bolt, I snapped them just by trying to pass the bolt through. As you can see, here's the top one. I cannot just push that through, really, without force. And I think an M3 should at least fit through there without too much force. You see, it even broke here. Well, they all broke except for this one. It's the only one that didn't break. So that's just not a good design of the fan holder itself. And like an idiot, I slapped both these on, put the FT5, told the FT5 to home, and this one instantly, I think actually went the other way around, yeah, because it sits on there. This one instantly snapped right off because I didn't look to see the clearance, and you can only have one on the inside. If you have one on the outside, it's going to hit all of the beams, not beams, I'm sorry. It's going to hit the smooth rods and the threaded rod of the Z-axis and snapped it right off. So that was not smart at all. Yeah, it actually sat like this. This is how it sat. This one snapped right off. So I only had this one. Let's take a look at the prints. With one, fair bit of stringing, not a ton though. It actually came out pretty well, drooping on the bottom, good on the top layers. Not overly impressed, but definitely not the worst lattice cube. Benchy had a layer shift in this one as well. The sidewalls are okay, pretty rough, definitely not as smooth as it was with the last one. Top layers on the roof and the deck have holes in it. There is minimal drooping on the archway. You can't really tell, but I can see it a little bit. The square window is fine. The back circle window was good as well. Again, good layer adhesion on everything, but again, not very smooth sidewalls, which was interesting to see. And this one, as I said, those pop off. This popped off as I was setting up here on the table, getting ready to do this video. So this Control V3 test is not the best one, but it was one that was recommended to me by several people in the groups. But either way, everything on here came out great. There was significant stringing passing from each of the 2 pillars back and forth. This had broke from me moving it again, but it was bad layer adhesion on that tower. Other than that, it came out okay. Top layer was not fantastic. So this might be okay for some setups, but I personally would not recommend it. So this setup here was made by one of the members in the Folgertech group. So this, if you're using the Titan, obviously, well not obviously, but you should be using the Titan when you're using the V6 standard or Volcano. And this is the spacer, which incorporates a BL Touch mount and a fan setup for one side. And this is an okay design. It's basically taking, you know, this one and just removing, you know, you're still using the stock, what is that, 20mm fan from E3D and just adding in this single 30mm on the side. And I am an idiot because I've been saying 30mm, but this is actually 40mm. I apologize for that. These are 40mm fans. The 30mm fan is the one that's on the front of the E3D. I apologize for that. But anyways, so it's using the single one. It encompasses quite a ways around. I mean, you can see how far around that comes. And it almost starts to bend back around the other side. It's got a fairly large hole there for it. All the air goes through. But let's take a look at the prints. So here's the lattice cube. A fair bit of stringing. I did have a layer shift right here. It's kind of hard to tell, but there was a layer shift in there. Top layer came out great though. A lot of stringing, as I said. Drooping, not so much. A little bit on the inside ones, but the perimeter ones actually didn't have too much of it. But it came out as actually quite a decent lattice cube. Probably would need to turn the fan down a little bit. But other than that, it came out okay. Here's the benchy. Benchy has a nice sidewall. Top layer and the deck all have holes in it. The bottom here, I don't know what happened, but it started to peel away. So I did have that layer adhesion issue, which was, I should say, the bottom layer adhesion issue with this one. None of the other ones had that. I don't know why this one decided it would. They're all the same filament, same settings really. And no drooping in any of the windows at all. A little bit of stringing when going back and forth through the cabin in there. But other than that, it came out okay. And again, the Control V3 test. Quite a bit of stringing here between the towers. Good layer adhesion though for everything. Stayed in place. Everything has the spacings that it should. All the different designs, all the different towers are there. So it came out okay. It's not a bad setup. If you need a BL Touch incorporated mount with the fan, this actually is not a terrible setup. I just this might be the best actually for if you are using the BL Touch, because the dual fan here that I'm using, you can't use the BL Touch because these fans get in the way, or you'd have to design a different mount. But if you're not using a BL Touch, this is good. If you're using a BL Touch, this probably is your best bet. I would just turn down your fan a little bit, especially when you're doing thin things like this, to prevent stringing. Okay, and finally I have these little guys. So these actually print like so, which was quite interesting. And they actually mount onto the, well, let's just do it this way. They mount to that 30mm fan like so on front of the E3D. And they both have little 30mm fans on them. Now, I was using the stock 30mm fan here, and these are aftermarket ones that I bought from Extruder, which are supposed to be E3D fans. They are way louder and they push way more air. Let me tell you that right now. They're supposed to be the same, but they are definitely not. So they sit just like this. They point straight down to the nozzle. As you can see, their opening's right there. They push a ton of air. And let me actually show you the first lattice cube that I made. This was actually the second one. So here's the first lattice cube that came off with these fans. Because the fans were on so doggone fast, they were blowing the filament away as soon as it came out, which was crazy. So it was kind of connected, I guess, at some point. But then it just did this whole gobbly mess. You know, it did do, again, there's a part of it here that did actually begin to print. However you can get this to fit on there, I don't know. It did start to print, but it totally failed. So I was like, okay, well that's an issue. I need to turn down my fan. After I turned it down, stringing was still, you know, pretty prevalent. You could easily clean this up with a hot gun, but need to turn down even more. And these were at like 50%. Top layer was okay. It's pretty rough though, surprisingly, even with the fans lowered. But other than that, there was not much sagging. Top layers were great. You know, the top sides of all of this came out really nice. But again, got to turn those fans out because, man, are they powerful. Here's the benchy. Benchy was pretty rough on the sidewalls. This isn't any layer shifts. It just, I don't know, it just had some weird layers in there. Bottom layer again, this one was a little too far for some reason, don't know why. Top layers, the top and the deck have holes in it, quite significant ones, I should say, in this one. No drooping at all though, and no real stringing going back and forth. A few strings in here, a few strings back here, but other than that, it came out pretty well. Finally, the Control V3 bridges came out well. The circle, the shading infills there. This the circle, half circle thing. A lot of stringing between all the different towers here. This tower again, you can see all the strings run off the back of it where it went. Pillar, cylinder, all the cutouts came out really nice. You can read the Control V in there. The sphere, these little doodads. So it came out okay. So let's recap on all these different setups. Alright guys, so that kind of wraps it up. Those are pretty much the top 5 that I could find on Thingiverse. Again, there are tons of different fan setups out there for the E3D gear. If you find something else, great. These were just 5 for the Volcano nozzle, because that is very, very popular since the FT5 is such a big printer. A lot of people use that so they can use 0.8, 1.0, 1.2 millimeter diameter nozzles to do large, fast prints. Pushes out a lot of plastic really fast, really thick layers, and you need to cool it really fast. So some of these might work better for larger diameters, some smaller. Most of these only took, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours max to print them. I printed some of them with a little higher infill than I should have. But 2 hours you can have a fan shroud to test out yourself. I highly recommend you test them out, but I kind of hope this kind of gives you a little bit of a guidance on which way to go, what to look for, how to do your testing, etc. So all the links to all these different ones will be down below. Please try them out. Let me know what you think. I'd be happy to hear from you. If you have any comments, leave them down below. Any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. If you have any others that you would like me to try out one day, maybe I'll do another roundup, things that people have asked me to do, and we can go from there. A quick big thanks out to the guys in Folgertech group. They helped me out decide on what tests to do. I wasn't really sure. I knew Benchy was going to be one of them. The lattice cube and the V3. The V3 came to be an okay test, but not really fantastic. The lattice did show really well on what fan setups were the best. Also, which ones really need to turn down your fan speed. Just having it on 100% doesn't mean it's going to be great. You could have a lot of stringing, and that can be an issue. I also forgot to mention, so all of these were printed with the exact same settings, as much as you can. The exact same settings, the exact same roll of filament, which was the Proto Paradigms black filament. Link for that down below if you guys want to pick some up. Not affiliate or anything like that. They don't sponsor me, they didn't give me anything yet. I bought the filament with my own money. All of this was printed with my own money. So if you guys want to help out the channel, you should do that. So if you guys like the video, give it a like. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. Let me know down below why you didn't. Again, this was only 5 setups, and the 6th was from the Folgertech Google Drive page. So there are many more setups out there. This is just 5 to kind of get your mind twirling on different fan setups that you could use on the Folgertech FT5 with the E3D Titan, E3D V6 with the Volcano nozzle. So keep all that in mind, please. If you want to support the channel, you can do that many ways. Up here, there'll be a link for Patreon, or over here. I don't remember. I need to put a picture here. But anyways, you can go to my Patreon, donate me $1 or more, greatly appreciate it. Any money that comes in goes straight into the channel. My current Patreons, thank you for your support. You can also help out with some bookmarks. So I have affiliate links for Amazon and Maker's Geek. Go to Amazon, do some shopping, or if you do Maker's Geeks, you can go there, subscribe to their Maker Box. They have one like the Maker Box actually has. I think they call it the Geek Box for them. But you can go down there, subscribe to them, use my affiliate link. All the money comes into helping out the channel. Thank you guys, and as always, happy printing.